So I've been really enjoying my time with Crimson Desert so far. This game has a lot of different interesting mechanics that are interweaved together to make it a game that is not like anything else that I've ever played. Now, it does draw a lot of inspiration from various games. I would say the strongest inspiration based on my playthrough so far is definitely Zelda. You'll definitely get that vibe the first couple of hours in, with the way it handles exploration and handles puzzles and all kinds of stuff like that. But there's, of course, a lot of other stuff going on as well. However, this particular fight is going to show a major point of friction for a lot of people out there. This fight might be one that is going to cause some people to simply give up on the game because it is an extreme spike in difficulty compared to what has been previously presented. Now, this is probably legitimately the 20th attempt against this guy, and this is the recording of me actually eventually winning the fight. Not without burning out a lot of health items and whatnot, of course, because this fight was really challenging. And this is with me wearing the Deluxe Edition DLC armor that you get with that, which does give you some buffs versus the starting armor in the game, which I guess at this point it's possible you could have better armor than this if you kind of go off the beaten path and do various things. But if you're just playing through the story, this is probably going to be better than anything that you're getting naturally through the game world if you're just trying to play through the storyline. So that's something to keep in mind there. But anyways, this fight also demonstrates a major point of friction with the way the controls of the game works. Now, you might have heard some people say that the controls are clunky and messy and stuff like that. And for the most part, I actually disagree with that. There is a lot of context-based actions that are done in the game, and they actually do some pretty smart things with, say, like, for example, the X button on my Xbox controller that I use to play the game, even though I play on PC. It is used to jump. It is also used to interact with objects or people in the environment. Now, that can be pretty strange using the same button for two different things, but it's based on context. So if you want to jump, typically you're just tapping the X button and you're going to jump. Whereas if you interact with stuff in the environment, you're going to hold the button instead. Now, that being said, the left bumper is also a very important button to use in the game, and that can be used for various things as well to change some of the context. So you can use that to fine-tune where you're actually wanting to pick up objects, or you can even use it for the platforming, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was a really cool feature. I outlined that when I was streaming. But it does have its downsides. Sometimes these context-based actions can include things that make no sense at all. Like in this combat, for example, you might have seen me do like this little hand-grabbing thing that you can do. This is a special power that you have that is used specifically for puzzles, as far as I can tell. There's not any other use of that action, and yet you're able to do it in combat. That's triggered by holding the left bumper button, which is what you're also going to do if you want to block an enemy, and clicking the left stick, which clicking the left stick by itself usually will just make you crouch. But when you do it in this specific combination, it shoots out this hand, and then you literally can't do shit until you press the B button to cancel that action. There is another action where if you're holding the left bumper and the right bumper, which is the attack button at the same time, this does this little sword flashing thing, which makes no sense. These are actions that only are used in the puzzles, and you can do them in combat. Now, don't mind the fact that we're essentially watching the fight again, because this is just going to be the segment right before the attempt that I actually succeeded in, that I'm showing off. But you can see how these context-based actions that don't make sense in the middle of combat, how that can actually be a problem, because these are actions that have no use in combat, and yet contextually the game allows you to do them. This is something that other games that are context-heavy, like, well, for example, Zelda. That's a game that, like the Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, those games both have context-heavy actions as well. Not quite to the extent that this does, but there are certain activities that you just cannot do in certain situations, and it changes the button presses entirely. But this game doesn't function in that way, which is really strange. I can't fathom that this is an issue that the developer could not have been aware of, or that playtesters would not have encountered at all during their playtesting. I just don't think that's actually physically possible for that to be the case. So there's definitely some level of incompetence that has went into the fact that they are able to use these context actions in scenarios that make no sense. Now, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe there is eventually a point in the game where you can use that hand ability in combat or the sword flashing ability in combat in order to actually help yourself out in some way, to defeat an opponent, to grab them or something like that. That is maybe a possibility, and maybe that's why this is the way it is. And if that's the case, it's really weird that we haven't had access to it at this point in the game yet. I don't know, like, it's a major point of friction in otherwise really interesting and fun game. I have been enjoying this game a lot, but because of issues like that I've outlined, and also the extreme difficulty spike with this particular fight, I can see why this game is steering some people away, why some people aren't that interested in it. And then also, of course, just like crazy stuff like getting one-shotted essentially by a blow that you cannot dodge or block. You have to, or you can dodge it, you can't block it rather. But yeah. It's just something I want to talk about with Crimson Desert. I'm going to stream it again soon, guys. Thanks for watching. That's Last Line.